Pardon me while I have a strange interlude.
There is nothing else. Life is an obscure hobo bumming a ride on the omnibus of art.
In the misty corridors of time, and in those corridors I see figures, strange figures.
Welcome back, my friends, to the AP Strange Show. I am your host, AP Strange. This is my show, and tonight's show is brought to you by Fluid Ice Matrix energy drinks. If you want energy from another dimension, use the Fluid Ice Matrix energy drinks, and that will help propel you from your 3D reality to cosmic awareness and beyond. So Fluid Ice Matrix energy drinks, look that up. And tonight on the show, very pleased to be speaking with Ben Roylance. He is the owner of Apport Used Books, a place that a lot of my money has gone over the years. It's just flown away. It's apported to his bookstore in Emmaus, Pennsylvania. And he's also one of the two hosts of Consensus Unreality, which is a wonderful podcast that you should check out. And tonight he's here so we can talk a little bit about Eugenia Macer Story, who is kind of a real legend, a playwright, poet, paranormal investigator, psychic. So many titles can be applied to Eugenia Macer Story that I found in conversation occasionally she's come up and people don't really know where to start with her or are only vaguely familiar with her. So I thought it was worthwhile to do a show where we just kind of talk about her. So welcome to the show, Ben. How are you doing?
Cool. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could talk about Eugenia's work for years. So I'm happy to have that be the subject. And thanks for the kind words about the shop and the podcast.
Of
And yeah,
course. Yeah.
thanks for having
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like the Macer Story stuff has been kind of a passion of yours for quite a while, huh? When did you first encounter her work?
Yeah. I think it's been almost, I guess like 12, 13 years or so. I've been on this path.
Yeah,
Um, I found her book, Sorcery and the UFO Experience. Dr. Fu Manchu Meets the Lonesome Cowboy was her preferred title. That
right.
the I think what is the International Guild of Sciences was who first published it. Kind of like an interesting mail order, radionics slash fringe slash psychic publisher, and this like very strange faux leather edition with like a gilt stamp title to the front that just said Sorcery and the UFO Experience. And I found that in a bookstore. Or no, it was a record store actually that I found it in and bought 2013. No, it would have been early 2014.
Okay.
And a couple months after she had died. So I'd never corresponded with her, met her. I kind of just like within a month or two of her having died, I was kind of looking at her Facebook because I had
Yeah,
Googled this person who wrote this mind-blowing book for who I was at the time. I was really interested in the connection between poetry and UFOs. That was kind of like my area of personal research at the time, like UFO
yeah,
encounters and psychic experiences and poetry. And finding that book was life-changing. So I kind of was looking into her and yeah, seeing that like, oh, this person died like weeks ago, basically. And I found her
yeah,
book. It was, and especially paired with the utterly strange things that have happened to me regarding her work over the course of kind of archiving, collecting, and researching it. Um, it feels very collaborative. It's been this very strange this strange process. So yeah, it's a subject very near to my heart.
Yeah, so it's one that you can't stray too far from at any point because you're always just kind of coming back to it, right?
Yes, yeah. There hasn't really been much time at all since that I've not in some way kind of thought about her work. I mean, even just down to the fact that I have like that's a painting of hers back there. Like I have her paintings
Right.
all over due to like a extremely bizarre set of synchronicities that ended with me getting all these paintings by her that were kind of saved from her house after she died.
Yeah, you got
Um,
stuff directly from your estate, huh?
no, it was like, well,
Oh,
yeah, y yes. Her estate, I don't, I don't want to get into any of the weird,
right.
estate stuff, but a lot of it was kind of left for whatever. It was given to friends, and one way or another, I bought some. Some of it was given to me after my sort of maniacal interest was shown. Things kind of made their way to me. But at first, I was buying them from an artist friend of hers who inherited all of her paintings. Um, yeah, and that's been a big part of it is just collecting the trail that this extremely prolific person left behind in the world in all of these different ways, in all of these different like subcultures that she kind of popped up in,
Yeah,
whether it's art or the paranormal or poetry or off Broadway theater, like all of these things.
right. Yeah, it's almost like if you were to encounter a normie, I don't know how often that happens to you, but and you had to describe
Yeah,
who she is, like how would you even do it? You
I have
know?
to do that all the time.
Yeah,
Because well, as a bookseller, I'm often asked, "What's your favorite book?" And I don't have an answer for that because it's impossible. But I do like to say it's well, probably something by Eugenia Macer Story, and then they say, "Oh, who's that?" And I say, "She's psychic." Is usually my first line is because that kind of describes through line through all of her work is the presence of higher levels of consciousness and awareness. That's in her
yeah,
poetry, it's in her art, it's certainly in her paranormal investigative works. Um, so I just call her a psychic and an artist usually is kind of how I describe her.
yeah. And I mean, she advertised services as a psychic for
Yeah,
a long time, right? So,
right.
so it's something she self-identified with. But yeah, it is always there. I mean, it informs the art for sure, and
Yeah.
like you said, with her investigations or her studies and theories into how paranormal things operate. I mean, she's on an entirely different level. We were talking before we recorded about how I was just kind of going over some of the like the papers she wrote, not even necessarily like articles, but they were kind of almost um, I guess scientific papers is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
That
And like
Professor Wham had sent me at one point, and I'm like, I can't do this right now. This is way too heady.
they're intense. They're
Yeah,
intense both because she's like kind of she's trying to write about these extremely specific sort of subjective experiences that she had
hmm,
as as a way that will appeal to a scientific audience. So it's like kind of like you're through these two jargon barriers. So you're kind of it's like kind of beyond two walls as a reader, where she is already a very idiosyncratic and good writer, I think. But and then in those papers, she's also trying to like twist her work in such a way that it makes sense, you know, being submitted to a science like magazine, which is what she was doing for a while, which is really interesting to me.
yeah, yeah. Because there's a big difference between that and some of her other more article form uh, writings or her prose. Um, so it's definitely more difficult when you're trying to read the scientific papers that she wrote.
Yeah. Um, I I think it's still up, I think. There's the United States, I think it's, yeah, the USPA, the United States Psychotronics Association, has an archive of their video recordings from their, several decades of conferences. And there's like maybe 15 videos of Eugenia presenting. And I think at one point I emailed the guy and was like, because I think they were like, they charged like $10 a piece to like digitize and send them to you. I guess you used to be able to buy the VHSs, which would have been nice, but
Yeah, yeah,
so I got all of them, and I was watching a couple of those uh before this conversation, and it really helps hearing her describe her theories and sort of using these diagrams that she illustrated in this her very unique art style, so they almost feel like works of art themselves, these like sort of mathematical diagrams. But yeah, that like it's she feels like one of those people who kind of just, in these presentations, the guy who's introducing her, it'll be a different person every time, is like, well, she's been coming here for 20 years. She's our most consistent presenter,
right.
talking about her theories, and then, she'll come up and do her thing. And I don't, yeah, such a consistent thinker across time is, and so stubborn about the things she wants to present, which are so. I think you were saying that they're heady, and it's like they are, because they're not.
Yeah,
They're certainly not incoherent. They're logically argued. They're just strange, and they're kind of coming from that like Jack Sarfati realm of like the new physics type stuff.
yeah, it's not for beginners really. I mean, it's diving into the deep end of the pool with the
Yeah,
weird stuff. And
yeah,
I think it comes from having a lifetime of weirdness. Like she kind of had a whole life of experiences with the weird.
yeah.
uh, yeah. So
Huh.
going back a long time, So um, I do tend to enjoy that, but it can be kind of, you described it as a barrier. There is a barrier there
Yeah,
if you're, the kind of person. But I hate trying to describe this because it makes me sound condescending. But like, if you're the kind of person that occasionally watches paranormal TV shows or just it entertains the ideas of UFOs but hasn't really thought about it that much, it's like kind of not.
right.
You might not be ready for it, or maybe you will be. Maybe it'll blow your head wide open. It's
Yeah,
kind of nice to have like a deeper perspective, a more nuanced perspective, um, and a more
yeah,
artful one. So it's um,
yeah.
yeah,
It's tough because it's hard because she's certainly somebody who has a lot to say about the UFO phenomenon and the paranormal. But yeah, she's not the first person I would point someone toward if they were looking for like an entry book on that. That being said, I think her books are my favorite on the subject because they're so, well, I mean, I guess I'm biased because of how I feel about her entire body of work, but there's something so personal about them, and like, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. And even like the later stuff when she's not talking about UFOs so much as these like really like naughty, like KNOTTY
yeah, yeah,
uh associative experiences she has, where it's just like these layers and like mixed up like threads of synchronicities that like create this, just this mass of text that she's dealing with. That's kind of my favorite thing that she does, and that goes across her entire body of work too.
yeah. She'll be talking very generally about a phenomenon, and then drop in something personal, and you're like, wait, what? Why is she telling me what she was doing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon last Friday? And then you realize this is her explaining the synchronicity thread that
Right.
led her to a conclusion with something, and then she brings it back to a broader scope. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I get it. That all really was illustrative of the thing
Right.
that you're talking about. But that's the way synchronicities are. You can't really just plainly, you know, when there's a UFO account, you can just talk about witness saw UFO at this time in this location. When you're talking about
Yeah.
like a synchronicity, you're like, so when I was a kid, there was this
Right. Yeah.
TV show that meant a lot to me, and like last Friday, somebody randomly said this thing to me, which relates to this other thing, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
um,
It's
you sound
yeah.
like a crazy person trying to explain it, but she doesn't sound crazy when she writes it because she's able to kind of, uh, like you said, it's like a knot. It's like a Gordian knot of overlapping
Yes.
meaning. Yeah,
Yeah. And so even like trying to explain her work to somebody who's already like, somebody who's like, I really love UFO books and, what's your favorite UFO book? And if I say, it's Congratulations, the UFO Reality by Eugenia Macer Story, which was, I think, her first book. And then they read that book and it's like, this is this like very strange diaristic kind of like account of her, of like 2 years in her life after being like zapped by a UFO, and she
yeah,
begins having these psychic experiences and this like burst of creative energy. It's kind of just like tracing the people she met in this circumstance, the beginnings of her psychic practice, and along the way, kind of very early on, like contemporary with Jacques Vallée, really, is
yeah,
trying to describe the UFO phenomenon as mostly a psychic event and not a physical one necessarily.
yeah. Which
Um,
doesn't preclude physical effects from
no,
happening,
it
right?
definitely
So
it definitely
yeah,
includes those. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, which
Because
is yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, she does write about apports. You know,
It's all about that. Yeah, and kind of
is that
her
what inspired the name of your store?
it actually is. I was I was looking through I think it was 2017 or so, and I was trying to come up with the name for a small press that I was going to publish. Um I had asked. Actually, it's funny. The first thing I ever published as an individual was in like very early 2017, which I guess is a long time ago now, like
Right.
in a way. And that was the first time I decided I'm going to publish something like as a, a publisher, It
Yeah.
was 11 poems by Eugenia Macer Story, and I just like pulled some poems from some of her chapbooks and made like 30 copies of it or whatever. And then I was like, I need a name for this because I had asked my favorite poet. I just like wrote him a letter and I was like, can I publish a book of yours? Like, do you have anything? And he wrote
Yeah.
me back and I was like, yeah, of course. And so it's this guy, Clark Coolidge, who's one of the I think like one of the, it's like asking Elvis if he could put out his record for me, you know?
Right.
And then he says, sure. And so I was like, holy shit. And then, so I was like, I need a name for this press. So I was like doing some bibliomancy, and I think I had a copy of one of Eugenia's books there, and I was just like, I'm gonna find an interesting word in here. I was like, oh, apport, like an object that appears out of nowhere. That's nice for a publishing venture. And then, so I did that, and then I got tired of publishing stuff. I've started doing it again, but I opened the bookstore online presence and I was like, I need a new name. Uh, but Apport still fits because you're, sending
Yeah.
objects far, far away. So it was
Right.
perfect for a mail order business. And yeah, so really, I guess I can credit bibliomantic influence from Eugenia on that. Uh, even though, I'd
Yeah, and
known what the word was, it's kind of like, yeah,
yeah, and books have a way of just appearing in your life at the right time too. So
yes. Yeah, no,
as
it's kind of
evidenced by
perfect.
your story of finding her book, so it all
Yeah.
loops back on itself like one of her
Sure
stories.
does. Yeah, it really sure does. Yeah. So,
And
yeah,
you've published a couple of her texts by now, or
kind
at
of.
least done short runs of some of
Yeah.
her work. Yeah,
My feeling is that I do it for informational purposes because it's a, what do you call it? It's like a uncertain situation.
yeah,
Uh, so I kind of just say, I'm showing this to some people is how I think of it.
right,
And the hope someday is to figure out a way to publish a collected poems, every poem I can find in a single volume, and then start reissuing some of her books somehow because they've
Right.
really become hard to find. Uh, a lot of it's my own fault by like talking about her all the time and posting and like and there just weren't that many of them, so they've just become hard to find.
Right.
And which is too bad because they're so good. But one of these days that will happen. I will figure out a way um to publish them. But yeah, so far just here and there. Yeah, it's hard because yeah, you want to do
Yeah.
something that feels respectful. Um, and that's difficult with
Yeah. I mean,
somebody
you
who
don't
doesn't
want.
who doesn't have
Yeah.
like
You
a
don't.
yeah.
You don't want to be accused of being like exploitative or
No,
trying to profit off it or whatever. But
certainly
you do
not.
want it to get out there. Like,
Right.
and
That's
so
why
much
it's
of her
tricky.
writing, yeah, and so much of her writing was just published in a variety of places. Like she wrote for a lot of publications, and all that stuff is kind of not
Yeah.
necessarily in her books. So, um,
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, in terms of pure mass of writing of hers, the most, at least for now, knock on wood, the most reliable place is the Wayback Machine. Looking at her like several websites through Internet Archive's Wayback Machine,
yeah,
because she just updated her website all the time, and so many of the PDFs are archived, so you can just like find so many of her articles, excerpts from stuff. Her plays are the hardest things to find and are also the most voluminous of her works, just hundreds
yeah,
of them.
yeah,
Um, and I just can't find any of them. Uh, I think I have like five.
yeah,
So yeah, it's a it's been a really interesting decade or more of trying to archive this work that was mostly just like blasted out onto the internet and then
yeah,
immediately upon her death, except for like archiving software, is just gone.
yeah,
As is true of her art. Anything that wasn't saved immediately after her death was kind of like left to molder in her house for years. So
yeah,
I think that's the case with a lot of these people who don't have a direct, you know, no museum was like knocking on the door to like get the paintings. There was no,
mm,
yeah. So it's just a sad reality of it. I feel like something similar happened to Gray Barker's stuff. What wasn't taken to the library that he has his work at. Um,
yeah. I mean, you kind of as a researcher need to have a chain of custody
yeah,
like arrangement when for that kind of thing. So
yeah,
so it has a place to go because otherwise, I mean, a lot of them either don't have the family that would naturally inherit it, or they have family but they're not interested in any of the stuff.
yep,
So you hear stories like that all the time where somebody's kid was like, I know my dad was into all this weird UFO stuff, but I don't care about it. What am I
yeah,
going to do with all this crap?
yeah. It's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah,
And that's just like what happened. It was only recently that like a clean out company went to her house, like literally like 12 years after she died and dispersed everything. And I was like days late to like trying to like I was like, please don't throw out the archives of her like materials. I don't care if they're moldy. And they're like, sorry, it's already thrown out. And
yeah,
which would like drove me insane for weeks. But I
yeah,
managed to get one last painting that they were like, well, this doesn't look so moldy. Um, yeah, it's brutal what happens to people's stuff. But um, yeah, I don't know.
right. Well, let's get into some of her theories.
Yeah,
I don't know, we talked a little bit about apportation. Is that even a word? I don't know. Like I
yeah.
use it sometimes, but I don't even know if that's actually.
I think it's a like just this side of a neologism. I think it's like,
Yeah,
teleportation is the word,
right,
apportation. Why not? Yeah,
right. Yeah, I mean, these are words that are invented to describe weird
Yeah,
phenomena anyway.
right.
But but yeah, I mean, how does some of this work in her her
Yeah,
conception of it? Well, I mean, are there like I said earlier, this stuff is difficult to describe, and she kind of invents her own language for it, which sometimes changes depending on
right.
uh, like new experience or new insights. So
Yeah, it is. It's really it's difficult, and she's like very she takes very intense pains to describe it in a way that she is sure she's understood, and it's still kind of difficult. Um, I think the main thing around which all of her paranormal stuff orbited, at least towards like the end of like the second half of her career, is the fluidized matrix, which is this what she calls a living intelligence in mass. So she's trying to explain um, paranormal and sort of psychic phenomena through a physical means, or I guess like a sort of super physical means,
yeah,
an as yet undiscovered sort of aspect of physical reality. She's not trying to appeal to etheric energies or, the Akashic records or something like that. She's trying to come up with her own explanation of how this could possibly be. Things like synchronicity, things like premonitions or uh, clairvoyance or spontaneous healing, like all of these things that, we always think about, UFOs, uh, all of that sort of stuff, the mind affecting physical material. She's trying to come up with a sound and sort of reasoned, way to describe these things that can be represented logically. Whether she succeeds at that or not is for history to decide, I guess. But um, she's certainly not the fringiest of fringe physicists, I don't think. I think there are people
right.
who have sort of like uh, axes to grind within that continuum that are way more off base than she is. Yeah,
Yeah.
so she has this paper, Breathing Light, Breathing Time, I think it's called, where she sets out this example of an accident, which is a an anecdote that I've been thinking about for like 10 years now, still trying to kind of like wrap my head around it, when it's really pretty simple. It being you don't get into an accident because you have a premonition of the accident. In order for you to have had the premonition, it needs to have happened somehow for it to
Right.
be a premonition. And so she's trying to theorize what force, what physical thing, what like energy is uh making it so that there's these two things are happening at once. And it's not just like a multiple universes thing. She's trying to think of it as like she calls it reflexive time.
Right.
Uh and so that feels like a crux upon which a lot of her stuff works is these psychic insights and how it can possibly be that you can use psychic insights to then change them.
Well, right. I mean, like that's a pretty common trope in storytelling is that,
Yeah,
I mean, like the Oedipus tale, if there's a prophecy, it must be fulfilled, and no
right.
matter how much you try to avoid it, it's gonna be. But there are those cases where people do avoid their fate. So then what happens? Like, does that screw everything up? Like,
Right. I think
and
she's
how does that
saying,
work
yeah.
if it does? Like, yeah,
I guess
uh,
she's kind of saying that it both have to happen and that she had used this diagram of like there's one timeline where, there's a square at one part of it, and that's the accident. And on the other timeline, there's a triangle. The triangle is you knowing that the square is going to exist. So on the timeline with the triangle, there is no square.
right,
Um, and then outside of these things is a box in which the square and the triangle both are. And so it's almost like this platonic realm of forms that is sort of like dealing these cards out to the different little strands of possibility.
Right.
and she's trying to come up with sort of like a, that's why she calls it a matrix, right? It has like these units within it that are then distributed to the various functions. And I'm like a sort of like a, what's the word for like an illiterate person, but for math, like an innumerate. I'm kind
Right.
of like a person to whom these things are like sources of great frustration, trying to even think about
Well,
them.
right. Yeah, if you have a mathematical explanation for something, I'm like, magic, got it. It
Right.
works
Yeah.
because magic.
Yeah. 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 So it was like with great pains that I was able to kind of conceptualize this in my head. But it does make sense to me. And so that's kind of just like her trying to be as basic as she can and presenting an instance in which this fluidus matrix would have to exist.
Right.
This living consciousness within mass, as she calls it, would have to exist. And then,
Well, I
you know,
guess
there, go ahead, yeah.
within the popular mindset, what you would have, I guess, is a bifurcated timeline.
Right.
But so does this just collapse like a wave function back to the same timeline? Is what
Yeah,
she's
I don't know.
suggesting? Oh,
Um, yeah, I don't know if I'm not exactly sure what her thoughts on different timelines are. I know she addresses that though. The
right.
math stuff is so hard, and like the physics stuff, that side of her work is uh so integral to her um the rest of her body of work, even her poetry and her paintings, that you need to have like kind of a grasp of it to appreciate that stuff. But you know, the nitty gritty of it is
Yeah.
it's tough, which I think is good because I feel the same way about trying to read, you know, anybody who's sort of like scientifically like Jung or someone like that or whatever, you know, somebody
Right.
who's super methodical. I think it's difficult because it's complex.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's good to work those mental muscles trying to
Yeah,
or wrap your mind around it.
right.
But
Yeah,
that is stuff I've always been kind of obsessed with is just like the nature of time and how that stuff works.
yeah,
And then it's like, if you do a tarot reading and you predict an outcome and then somebody manages to avoid it, well, what did you do then? Did you ruin the time space continuum by doing that?
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's all like I guess Einstein is kind of no, I don't really know. I don't know where the time travel like what's the time travel neurosis came into our culture. I think it's
yeah,
but it's certainly around then where we're like, well, if time is sort of a in some sense manipulable thing, that's not good. You know, that was kind of like the
right.
cultural uh
Well, yeah, you
yeah,
think about things like the grandfather paradox or
right.
the bootstrap paradox, which is even more interesting, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think she was really spending a lot of time thinking about these kinds of things and trying to approach it from this weird hybrid psychic slash physicist approach, amateur physicist, I guess.
Well, right, I was going to ask you that because she didn't have a degree in physics, right?
No,
But
it was all just for the love of the game, I think. And yeah, which is, I think, better in some ways. And, you know, she was corresponding with, well, for an example, so she has a book called Doing Business in the Adirondacks, which is a wonderful book. I would say like half of the book is made up of like listserv emails between her and you know, and like forum posts. Like she's like really just copying, like, it's really an interesting, like early, like early internet novel and like in a way that's become very popular since. But she's, you know, corresponding with people like Jack Sarfati, like uh Friedman, the ufologist, all of these people. And is it Friedman? Stanford?
Stanton Friedman?
Yeah.
Stanton
Stanton.
Friedman.
Stanton
Yeah.
Friedman, yeah.
Yeah.
Him.
The
All
flying
like
saucer physicist.
yes. People like that. She's just kind of like going for it. And you know, there's like these long I don't know. She was really in the trenches with that era of new physics, ufology, you know, that sort of thing. Uh, and so, oh man, I lost my train of thought. I knew that was going to happen.
We were
Um,
talking about her doing it for the love of the game and
that's right.
doing business in the
Yeah,
Adirondacks, and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I guess what I was trying to say is after she had her UFO encounter, that she documents in Congratulations, she became obsessed with learning about electromagnetic theory, physics, all of these like very complex and highly mathematical uh, traditions, I guess. And she never stopped, and that was in the late 70s, and she never stopped doing that ever, like until she
yeah.
died. Um, and so in some ways, she's probably as well read as people who were given a formal education in the subject, if perhaps maybe a little bit more um, unorthodox in how she, presents her ideas, because I think she's kind of an eccentric person generally. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And I mean, that lends itself to that anyway. Like, you end up with a lot of innovation when you have an autodidact, as long as they're earnestly really applying themselves and learning the stuff,
right.
especially corresponding with people that know their stuff. Um,
Yes.
to have it kind of looked over, their ideas looked over. Sometimes they have a different perspective to offer because they're not so trained, I guess.
Yeah.
They're not molded by the academy, as it were, So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's kind of a funny thing to mention like on a podcast, but do you know Adam Go Rightly, right?
yeah.
Do
Well,
you
I don't
know?
know him personally,
Right. Yeah.
really, but
Right. I
we
mean,
have
I think
mutual acquaintances.
he's great, and he has this interview with Eugenia that you can find online that I think would be an amazing little booklet to publish. This is me publicly reminding myself to ask Adam if I can publish his interview with her because it feels like the the instance in which she is like very plain about all of her stuff and explains it very straightforwardly, very conversationally, and that feels very special, but it's not really anywhere. So that's
Is
my
it on
public.
Adam's blog? Is it on one of his sites, or
I believe it is, but I have it
buried
like
somewhere?
as yeah, I have it as like a web page PDF that I had to download from somewhere. It's not super easy to get to, but
Yeah,
yeah, that's my public accountability. Um, just doing my duty for the the
yeah.
work.
Well, Mr. Go Rightly, if you're listening,
Yeah. 'Cause and then that's another thing is how widely connected she was. Like how often you'll be talking to somebody in this field and be like, I never really like read her stuff, but we corresponded on we talked on Facebook. She
right.
emailed me about that. Like, um, she was very engaged with this sort of this work, this the larger paranormal community. She was um often like, to no response, sending like stuff to people.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to
Yeah, right. Me too. Yeah. Um, and like, she shows up in one of Valet's forbidden, damn, what is that called?
Forbidden Science
Yeah, the
journals.
journals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Where I'm not going to do a French accent. He's like, I ran into this really like interesting woman today, Eugenia Macer Story, and we talked about, well, it's like, it's just a paragraph, but it like captures, uh, what she was doing so well. Like, yeah, how out there she was. Not out there like strange, but out there like hitting the streets.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and she was regularly writing for a few of the magazines too. I'm trying to remember the
Pursuit.
organization. Pursuit. Yeah,
She has
uh,
so many articles in Pursuit, which is amazing. It's a great magazine.
yeah. I bought a handful of issues from your store at one point.
Yeah, they're great. And her
Yeah.
articles in there are wonderful. What's the other Borderland Sciences? She wrote for them
Okay.
several
Yeah.
times, which is funny because they're crazy. I love them. She was all over, yeah. Once in a
Right.
while, like that guy Colin Bennett? He wrote like I think he wrote a book about Adamski.
Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, he's just like another guy, but
Yeah.
like he reviewed one of her books in UFO magazine. Like she was like getting press to a certain extent, although it was often kind of like bemused press. Like
Right.
I remember like when I was first looking into her, reading like an Amazon review of one of her books, and it was like, well, I don't know if this is like supposed to be like Ulysses or if I'm supposed to like look at this as um a work of like journalism.
Right. Well, the
Which is
answer is
great.
yes, I think,
Right. Yeah.
right? So,
Yes. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Um, yeah. Her last book, the last book she ever published, which is like kind of hauntingly like months before she died, is this book, The Bright Spidey Charm Book, Real Magic, both talismanic and philosophical. And it's this like spiral bound, like big book. And it's one of the strangest books I've ever seen. Uh,
yeah.
and it makes me so sad that she wasn't able to follow this thread because what she is doing formally in it is unbelievable and something I haven't really quite decoded yet. It's a series of journals, just like kind of her first book, really, documenting these threads of synchronicity, talismanic apports, and like just like all the things that we love her for. And but what it does is it hits a certain point, and then it repeats the entire book up to that point, and then it does it like it does this thing where it keeps repeating itself word for word, like
Huh.
but within the new context of or like it's almost like a hypertext in a way where it's like it feels like it gets to a point, and because of that association, it then jumps back and repeats like several other journal entries. So not the whole thing every time, but it just does this looping fractal thing that I've never seen done in a book before. It's like the most unbelievable, inscrutable thing I've ever seen. Uh,
Yeah, I feel like I'd like to check that
um,
out. That sounds like something I'd enjoy trying to
yeah,
decode, you know.
it's unbelievable. So if I ever do anything, that might be one of the first things I'd try to figure out a way to republish. I feel like it would be extremely fun to like collaborate with like a some sort of website coder and like turn it into like an actual hypertext situation. Um,
Yeah, where you like
which
have to
is
click hyperlinks to go around
yeah,
the different places in it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, which is another aspect of her work that I think is really important, and which makes me wonder how she'd feel about like the AI thing today, which we were kind of talking about before the show.
right.
Um, she is someone who like was there from the beginning of the internet and was embedded in it completely up until she died, and electronic information and human interaction with these sort of communications machines are so important to her work, and she's so often using digital like concepts as metaphors for psychic things. Like she's so intertwined with this like information age onset through like the early web stuff. It's just and then every time she like does an interview or does one of her presentations in those USPA videos, she's like, "Oh man, anytime I'm near technology, it just the batteries deplete and the
Yeah,
technology goes wrong, everything's glitchy." So she sort of had this fascination with like the psychic effect on technology and that sort of thing, and was often
yeah.
having these bizarre um, malfunctions happen around her, like losing data, like all this stuff. And so that's like a big part of her is uh yeah, how intertwined she was with that technology. Yeah.
So, what do you think she would have thought of AI?
I really don't know. I'm sure she would have been interested in it because she was interested in spam. She was very interested in spam.
Huh.
Um, and like reading like almost like think and like oh man, she made a Twitter and didn't use it very much, and it was pretty close to when she died. But she made a Twitter and made like one or two tweets, one of which was like, "Well, I've signed up for Twitter and I'm going to use it as a means of dowsing," like without any further explanation. Um,
Huh.
so I think that she would have found a way to actually make me feel more. more interested in the AI stuff than I am now because my feeling now on it is that it's just like sort of like a mildew on on our culture.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. Um, I'm no fan of it myself,
Yeah.
especially considering the damage it's doing to the environment and to people. So yeah, uh,
Yes. Um, yeah, there's no way around any of its problems. And I have not really seen any. I mean, I've heard a few people say like, "Oh, it's really helping in like cancer research or something like that," which if that ends up being true, that's great. But I don't all I've only heard that from people who already seem to have a weird desire to defend AI no matter what. So
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, there was a post going around that went kind of viral. That was somebody complaining that the AI app that they were using doesn't also generate prompts. They were like, I'm tired of coming up with prompts. Why can't we have a button that you press that prompts it to come up with something? It's like you don't even want to do the prompt part.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
No, I'm terrified. As somebody who was like, I was teaching college students up until like two year and a half ago, I guess. Like just sort of on the side. And it wasn't the main reason I quit, but I was like, I'm not doing this. Like I can't
right.
do this. Like it's one of those toothpaste situations where once that technology is available to them, it's impossible to get people to do work because they know that they don't have to. And I would have been the same way. Like if I was a
Yeah,
college student when this had come out, I would have been like, well, do I want to smoke weed and watch TV? Or do I want to spend 5 hours writing an essay?
yeah,
And I probably wouldn't have picked the essay when I was 19 or whatever, but you know,
right. Well, I mean, but as a writer and as a poet, you understand the, necessity of, or at least, the utility of being able to write,
that's
like
why I am
people should
worried.
be able to do that. What?
That's why, yeah, I'm worried about that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I'm just trying to empathize with people who find themselves addicted to the laziness that AI gives us,
Yeah.
at least in terms of academic writing. And I'm sure some people are writing their poems that way too, but you know, God help them.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Not that there can't be interesting stuff done with collaborating with like machine learning for art or writing. I just really haven't seen much yet.
Yeah. 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 It seems like it would be missing a very important aspect. It would have to really be like a collaborative thing, in some way. Like
Yeah, and
maybe
I don't
have
really
the
know.
AI prompt you and then you write the thing.
Right. Yeah, that would be
But I guess people
yeah.
do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess they're already doing that. So I don't
it
know.
just already feels so stale.
Right.
And like so tired. So I can't I don't know. Um which is
Yeah.
to say I don't know how she would have felt about it.
Right. Yeah. Um, well, because it's not intelligence, you
No.
know, people call it artificial intelligence, but it's like, that's not what it is. I wouldn't exactly call it intelligence. It's not consciousness. It's
Certainly
something
not
else.
consciousness.
It's it's uh it's blenderizing words and spewing them back out in a pattern that looks similar to something somebody would write,
Right. It's like it has a lot to, which is why I think maybe she would have been interested in it as, you know, another form of dowsing, which is that it's like a probabilistic thing. Like it's what is most likely to have been said to this inquiry. Um,
Yeah.
and that's why I think maybe she would have found some interesting use for it. But it seems like the medium itself limits how interesting it can possibly get, uh, because it has such parameters on it, you know. Um, anyway, yeah, I don't think it's good. But
Yeah.
interesting
I
people
mean,
can always find an interesting use for anything, I think.
yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, technology in general too. I mean, I could see why the internet more broadly would be so formative or so appealing to someone like her when you're talking about like the fluidus matrix. Um, and then the conception of the internet was the World Wide Web. So
Right.
that kind of web and that spreading out in all directions. Then of course, like the movie The Matrix, like
Yeah.
the whole computers connecting us all around the world and connecting conscious minds to one another. The promise of the early internet, especially, where it was supposed to be a world
Right.
connected to one another, becomes like a super consciousness of itself. Um, and I mean, and people say that it's become like a slang word online is the hive mind, you know? So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that she found a lot of that in there. And I just thought of this as well. Something else that, just as much as basically what you could call like a haunted internet or like a haunted technology, which is kind of something she was interested in. She was very interested in disincarnate intelligences and sort of entities, and that was like something that she very much believed in and worked with, or if not worked with, acknowledged as
yeah,
as being having a role um in the world. Like she spends a lot of her nonfiction books, her investigative works, talking about the influences of these things on history. And, like in one of her later books, Pulse of the Dragon, she talks quite a bit about pirates and which I loved, and the role that like disincarnate entities had in pirates and
yeah.
their role in sort of spreading magical practices. And she's often like sort of speculating about um historical figures as perhaps belonging to some sort of almost Rosicrucian like initiatic order. Um, yeah, sometimes she gives them a name and sometimes she doesn't, but that's something that kind of spreads across her work. It gets very paranoid sometimes, which is kind of an aspect of her work that is important to note, is that it is conspiratorial as well. I wouldn't call her
Yeah.
a conspiracy theorist, but like she is paranoid.
Well, it's hard to describe to people, especially if they've only gotten in this deep more recently, because what was considered a conspiracy theorist like 20 years ago isn't the same thing as the
Right.
meaning has become very loaded in the past 10 years, you know?
It sure has. Yeah, no,
um,
she's not QAnon, but more like an early like web forum kind of conspiracy type stuff.
right. Yeah. Like slightly paranoid, and, you know, anti-authoritarian in some ways. Yeah, that
Yeah,
kind of thing. And then throw in a little bit of magical thinking, that
very
what
very magical.
when discarnate entities are involved. So I don't think I know that much about the discarnate entities with pirates. Is that something you could unpack a little more in the moment, or is
I
that
wish I
something you'd
could.
have to like go look up?
I'd probably have to find my copy of Pulse of the Dragon, which is
Yeah,
somewhere here. But well, she had a short story, which is really more of a journalistic piece that's sort of set in a fictional boundary called the Captain Midnight Transmissions,
oh, I read
which
that one. Okay,
yeah,
now it's ringing a bell.
and
Yeah,
that's quite a
right.
bit about sort of the Captain Midnight and fuck, what does she call that there's this like sort of feminine entity as well that sort of is like a counter like the Spider Queen or something like that
Yeah,
maybe, but
yeah, yeah.
um and that is a
It was
oh
like
it's kind of
Madam
like a
Spider or something.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's really a magnum opus that thing. It's really wonderful. That's in her collection of short stories called Troll. Um and that
yeah.
one yeah,
And
that lays
Captain
out a lot of
Midnight, of
the
course, is like a reference to the guy that overrode the signal for HBO in the 80s. Like he hijacked the transmission.
yeah, and then also there was another layer of There's another layer of reference too that I'm forgetting. It's been at least 2 years since I read that last. Yeah, there's that Captain Midnight, and then there's something else that yeah, she's always doing this thing with like referencing something, but then it also is kind of like pointing to something else, and then it also means what she means.
Yeah, it's
Um,
layered meaning, which is great
Very layered,
because
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But it's never clear exactly which layer she's pointing to. Well, it's not never clear, but it's seldom super clear.
yeah.
Uh, yeah. So that I feel like that would be the place to look for that, and Pulse of the Dragon are sort of the places where she's most obviously talking about pirates. Another interesting facet of her life is her involvement with the Oak Island stuff, uh,
Yeah.
which is how like a lot of people know who she is because she was mentioned as one of the dowsers in this famous Oak Island book.
Okay.
And so, and she's also like sort of archived on this website of like Oak Island psychics. And so
Do they
she's,
reference her on the TV show ever?
I don't know. I've been trying to look into that. And there's also a haunted house documentary from the 90s from like TLC or something that she's like a talking head on that I've not been able to find.
I think it
Uh,
was CBC,
well,
Canadian Broadcasting.
maybe that's why I couldn't find it. Have you
Yeah.
found it?
No, I came across a reference to it when I was
Yeah,
kind of just reading about. I think there might be a link to it from the Anomaly Archive site, so
that would
maybe
be
Smiles
wonderful.
would know how to get a hold of it. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, he's another great champion of her work. He was early on
Yeah.
was one of the people I was able to really get like a not intimate, but like a what's the word? Somebody who knew her, a good
Yeah,
look
kind of like an
at
insider.
yeah,
Yeah.
at what she
Yeah.
was like within that sort of community of people. And I mean, he's literally literally archiving this stuff, whereas I guess I'm
Right.
collecting it and hoping that, my house doesn't burn down or whatever, but
Yeah.
which is an archive of a sort. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm no archivist. I was thinking about that earlier because
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I'm the most disorganized person in the world. I have lots of cool stuff, but
right.
it takes me a minute to find it sometimes. Um,
Yeah,
uh, but speaking of the Anomaly Archives thing, you did a presentation
yeah.
on her, I guess a few years ago, maybe more than a few at this point.
I think it's probably like 5 or 6 years ago or something.
Yeah, you and Stephanie Quick and Professor Wham all kind
Yeah,
of
that was fun.
presenting ideas with Smiles Lewis. Yeah,
Yeah, that was really great. And yeah, I mean that's still one of the only things out there that you can really find about her. I guess until this is out there. But and we've talked about her a couple times on Consensus Unreality, but it's usually just me being like, "Oh man, this reminds me of this crazy part in this Macer Story book," and then Dave's
right.
like, "Oh, here we go," and
Yeah,
that's kind
here
of
we go again.
yeah. Um,
Well, does he
so
read
yeah,
her too, or
yeah,
is it?
yeah. What
Yeah,
he can, I mean, I think he has like a couple of the books. Oh, and yeah, I wanted to say that um, Legacy of Daedalus is one of her books. That's mostly about Oak Island and is one of the ones that last I checked there was somebody selling copies on eBay, so you can still find it. And
oh,
so
cool.
it's worth getting. It's a very slim little volume with the most unreadable font in the world. But it's just a wonderful book.
Yeah,
It just kind of cuts to the core of what she's about while looking at basically one topic. Well, it's never just
yeah,
one topic, but
yeah. What's your take on Oak Island? Is it an
uh,
interest of yours, or is it
it is
beyond?
not at all
Yeah.
an interest of mine. I'm interested in why Eugenia was interested in it, and I'm interested in
Okay.
it through her work. Uh, in the same way as like I'd be interested in I don't know what, like if my favorite poet wrote a poem about football, I don't really care that much about football, but I really like this writer, so I guess I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
along with it.
Yeah. Or like do a little homework to try to understand where they're
Yeah,
coming from. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Um,
But it's
yeah.
I
I
mean
don't.
any
I,
mystery is
I don't care
interesting.
about that mystery at all. But
Yeah,
my father has been like a huge fan of Curse of Oak Island for years, and I'm
yeah,
like, I can't. I always make fun of them. I'm like, I can't believe that show is still on. They haven't found it yet.
They're never
They're
gonna
never
find
gonna
it.
find it.
But that's what's attractive about it to me is that it is, and that's kind of why I feel like maybe she worked on it was the appeal of like an unsolvable mystery or like a mystery that you like scratch and it just keeps not giving you anything, but you know that there's
Right.
something there.
Yeah.
I find it enticing, but I don't really care about like the people that are like trying to find gold and stuff. It's like no, you're not gonna find gold. And like even
Right.
if you do, Canada's gonna take it from you or something. Like what are you even doing?
Right. And you're
Uh,
on TV while you're doing it, so it's
right.
not like you could just get away
Yeah.
with it,
Right.
Um,
Like, oh man, the Curse of Oak Island guy disappeared because he found the
yeah.
gold, and now we can't find him because he took the
Right.
gold.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's living it up on a beach in the Caribbean somewhere.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's a weird part of her lore, I guess, is the
Well, I
Oak
mean,
Island
dowsing
stuff.
is pretty consistent with her, though.
Big
So
Dowser,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Was she using dowsing rods or a
Uh,
pendulum
I feel like she
or
wasn't. I can't remember. She either said she was or she said she wasn't. I forget now, but
yeah,
I think she might have just been using. I feel like she might have been doing it like analog, I guess, or whatever you'd call it,
huh?
without rods, like just with her mind. For some
Okay.
reason, I'm thinking of that, but she might have had rods too. Or maybe I'm thinking of that she used sticks instead of copper. I can't remember.
Well, I
Um,
mean, there's a couple different ways.
yeah,
The water witching way that is popular in a lot of parts of the country is the I think it's a specific tree that you
yeah,
take the twig from, and then yeah. Um, but more practical probably are the rods, the copper rods.
right.
I've used those a little bit. I should use them more. I should play around with those a little more. But
I'd like to as well. I've had them like kind of, I feel like I have a tab open on my computer right now from like 3 years ago that
yeah,
is like copper dowsing rods that have probably doubled in price by now because of the copper. But I don't
yeah.
know. Um, one
I,
day.
the, Mostly I've used a pendulum in the past for that,
Yeah.
and I have a copper pendulum, and that actually works really well.
I feel like I probably have one of those somewhere. Yeah. It's really
Yeah,
interesting stuff. Yeah. But I guess another aspect is like the trickster is a big part of her work too.
yeah,
Um,
that's important. Yeah,
Again, especially as regards communication. I feel like she had a lot of trouble with Hermes to some extent, like or whoever it was that was kind of doing her mail. She was like things were always getting lost. She was always getting these bizarre, threatening like emails and phone calls. It's like her books are full of this stuff. Um, and I
yeah.
don't
So
think
she
she's
wasn't
yeah.
entirely paranoid if she's getting threatening messages.
No, no. Yeah. And then like yeah. I mean, once in a while you're reading her stuff and you're like, this seems a little bit uh like schizophrenic or something. But then
Right.
I just like I don't know. I don't think so. I think that there are types of people out there who are just extremely psychic and it takes a toll on your relationship with reality.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, um, I've known people who are psychic, and uh, I never really refer to myself as psychic, but I've certainly had a lot of psychical sorts of experiences, and it
Yeah.
can be destabilizing. Um,
Yes.
I have some friends where like their whole day can get thrown way off course because they know something terrible is going to happen nearby, and then it does, and
Yeah.
they're part of like it's not like in the movies where you just know something's going to happen, like you feel it too, so it
Right.
can really mess you up, and that's happened to me a couple times where it's the emotional impact more than anything, and I have to kind of decode what that is, but it's like you end up being sad in advance about something or anxious in advance or scared in advance, which is really really messes up your life,
Totally. I have
yeah,
had that too. And then having had that experience, if you're at all prone to rumination or anxiety, then thinking that that is like an omen, and then getting into this weird feedback loop of like
Right.
giving yourself bad feelings, which you think are going to be premonitions, but which aren't, and then it gets all mixed up. So, I mean, I can see how it, for somebody who's profoundly psychic, uh, it can take a toll on your relationship with, just the course of events.
Yeah, I mean, she seemed high functioning enough, though.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, from everyone that I know now who knew her, people that I've kind of gotten to know by researching her, she was kind of like a strange but generally friendly woman who had a very uh unique, and I'm not sure what the word would be, like powerful presence, but that seems like a cliche, like a presence that is in some way, yeah, I don't know. I can't think of how people described it exactly, but a unique person, I guess, is what they would say.
Right.
Yeah. And kind of having like done some field work in Woodstock where she spent most of the second half of her life talking to people there. Uh yeah, you kind of get a sense for what her life was like, taking the bus down to the city when she kept an office for Magic Mirror in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Um so many of her poems seem to have been like written on the bus between Woodstock and Manhattan. And yeah, it seems like an interesting routine she kept. Like doing poetry readings in New Jersey and in the city, going back up to Woodstock. I actually met a guy recently who hosted her many times for his poetry series um in New Jersey. I He was doing a reading around here for some reason, and he was very nice. And I was like, "Oh wow, like I've seen your name in like Eugenia's stuff. You knew her. Can you please tell me if you have this book? Because I'm like trying to complete
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
chat books." And he's like, "I do." Uh, and so he photocopied it for me, which was very, very sweet. And even just like doing that, weird things start to pop up. Anytime I do any work around her life or her work or whatever, crazy things start to happen. Every time any major thing has happened regarding me and collecting her work, there's been a series of unbelievable synchronicities. Um,
Yeah. I mean, that's how a lot of this stuff tends to operate, but I imagine even more so with her. Like,
yeah,
even outside of you, I was wondering if the guy had trouble with his photocopier, trusted trying to photocopy it, but um,
well,
it,
he sent me, it was like missing one page. It was like something weird happened.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There you go. It's like one of the pages was all black or something, like one of the
Yeah.
blacked out photos that Ted Sirios did. Or
Yeah. Did I ever tell you the story? I don't know. Do you want to have a long synchronicity story on your podcast?
yes. Well, I think
Okay.
it's only appropriate if we're
Yeah.
talking Eugenia Macer story to do a long synchronicity story. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. There was this is crazy. All right. I was looking at a collection. I wish I could remember his name right now. Really interesting radio broadcaster. Uh, it's like late 20th century, like I think 70s, 80s, 90s maybe.
Like
He
paranormal
just kind
show
of
or
like a personality type guy. Like I
okay,
think he did a lot of psychics and stuff like that, but I think he was more just like a talk show type guy.
okay.
If I can find it within like 5 seconds, I
Is
will
it
tell
Long
you.
John Nebel?
It was not. I wish it was.
Okay, yeah,
Um, no, it was another guy. Anyway, his archive is at Columbia University. I'll often search like a database of library holdings for Eugenia's stuff to try and like cobble together what I can. And one popped up new, which was after this collection had been processed. Uh, and I feel so bad I don't remember his name, whatever. It was an interview that Eugenia did with the architect and visionary Paul Laffoley, if you know him.
okay, yeah.
Um,
I know the name.
an amazing artist. And then also a video cassette recording of a table reading of one of Eugenia's plays. And I was
Okay.
like, I need to, I need these. I need to see
Yeah.
these and I need to hear this interview. I love it. And so I used like the chat feature. You know how like libraries will have like a chat feature kind of like down
Yeah.
in the corner. And I was
Right.
like, hi, I'm like an outside researcher. I'm not a Columbia student. I'd really love if I could have digital copies of these two items. And the chat feature replied, like, oh, sorry, this isn't really my department. I'll forward you to the special collections people, blah, blah, blah. Um, and then, so it turns out that chat was like a real librarian. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And then I got in touch with the special collections people. It stalled for a while because they were like, you need to come to Columbia to listen to and view these. You can't have a digital copy based on the parameters of uh, the copyright conditions of this collection, basically. And I was like, damn, that really sucks. I guess next time I'm in New York, I will do that. Um, like 2 weeks later, this woman comes into Apport, uh, because she had heard of me through a really nice video this other like YouTuber did about my like horror paperback collection, which is something I
Yeah.
like to have. And I was like, this is so sweet, it's amazing. And then yeah, it was a great thing. And then this other person that came into the shop had seen that and was like, oh, we have to go to this bookstore in Pennsylvania because of this horror stuff. So she and her husband came and they're checking out and they're like, I really like this art on the wall. It's like, this is really weird stuff. Where did you get this? And I'm like, oh, wow, it's this. I'm glad you like it. It's this artist, Eugenia Macer Story, who I have been, researching for 10 years now. I really love her work.
Right.
And the person's like, that's really weird. I work at Columbia. I just had somebody asking me about Eugenia Macer Story and because I used like the chat feature and I talked to like students and inquiries on there. And so that was the woman who I chatted with in the chat box feature,
Wow.
which is insane. And then,
Yeah.
so that's the most insane thing. And then what happened? So that was weird. We talked, blah, blah, blah. Maybe like 5 months later or something, I still haven't been able to get to Columbia. I really want to see this stuff. It's eating away at my mind. Uh, so I email somebody else, like maybe like a curator or like a special collections like librarian, someone higher up, and I'm like, hey, I really want to see this stuff. Is there any way you can digitize it for me? I'm not going to be able to get to Columbia anytime soon.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we don't really do that. If you can talk to the person who owns the copyright now, we'll ask the person who owns the copyright. And if they say yes, then we will put it, in the queue to be digitized and then we'll send it to you. But you can't share it with anyone, whatever. And then, so they do that and they give that person my email. So like a couple of days later, I get this email from this woman who is the copyright holder of those things. And she
Uh-huh.
says, this is the weirdest thing that's ever happened in my life. My husband is the guy who has this collection. He was like this radio host. He's dead now. I moved away. I was out in the garden the other day and this name popped into my mind. Macer Story. I hadn't thought about this name in probably 25 years, but for some reason, she used to call into my husband's, you know, uh, radio show all the time. And I wonder whatever happened to her. And then I go back inside after this name popped into my mind and I get this request from Columbia asking to digitize the Macer Story stuff in the collection, which I didn't even know we had.
Yeah.
And And that's what happened. And then so she said, yeah, you can do it. And then, so I have these personal copies of it that I can't share, but, um, or at least I can't publish them. But isn't that bizarre? Why would she have been thinking about it?
Yeah. I mean, that's like that does seem like EMS on the other side trying to push it to you, you know?
It always feels like that. Yeah. And then the same thing happened with the paintings
Yeah.
before I got them. It's like, and when it's happening, it's extremely scary. Uh,
Well, right,
n-
because I mean, I've had a lot of intense synchronicities before as well, and maybe not as dramatic and tied as the stuff you're describing,
I don't know.
like
Yeah.
specifically, but you there is a moment of uncanniness where you're like, wait, what exactly is reality? Like
Right.
nothing
That's what,
is
yeah.
real. Like
It's
it can't be real.
destabilizing.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and so I don't know what that means.
I get that
And
around Ashtar stuff, which I feel like you and I could have a whole
that's interesting.
conversation about.
Yeah.
There's Ashtar stuff always pulls me in or appears when I start thinking about it, and then I get nervous about it because I'm like, I don't want to become an Ashtar devotee.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Yeah,
You just have to have one of those weird rainbowy portraits up on your wall with like the blonde guy.
yeah, yeah. I've always really liked pre-Tuella Ashtar,
Yeah.
but then I developed a real appreciation for Tuella after
Yeah.
she she seemed like a sweet old lady. Like,
I like that 2L stuff too. I mean, I love all that stuff. Um, yeah. Yeah, the synchronicities are weird. It's not really fear that you feel, but I guess it's just the uncanny. I guess that's the best word for it. Yeah.
yeah, you feel like you got to hold on to something, or you might
Yeah.
slip off the edge of reality real quick.
Yeah. It's really strange, especially around Eugenia because she's so niche and like
Yeah,
and the other synchronicities I've had are like overhearing a guy in the shop talking about her who didn't know that like I had like paintings of hers up on the wall
right.
and like he had found the same book that I found originally also in a record store as opposed to a bookstore.
Yeah,
And like all this weird like there's just all this weird stuff that happens. Um and yet there are parts of it that remain very closed off and like missing the missing trying to save her work from
right.
the clean out crew by 2 days or whatever. Like stuff like that where it's like maybe I don't know, maybe what is that trying to say? And then you start thinking, does all of reality like have something to say to you? That's probably not a good way to think about it. Like maybe that guy who's a part of the clean out crew, whatever. Maybe it meant something to him. Like yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe it had to happen that way. You
Right.
know, it was a flashpoint on the fluid ice matrix that couldn't be
Yeah.
moved.
Or like to
A
make the stuff
square
that
that
did
couldn't turn into a
survive.
triangle. Yeah.
Yeah. This like give the stuff that did survive more of an importance or to make that more urgent somehow. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and also just it's not possible for everything to be saved.
that's true. Yeah. That's
I
a
mean,
lesson that I do not wish to accept about this, but which is true. Yeah.
like maybe that is the lesson is some of the stuff you do have to kind of let go of.
Yeah.
But it does worry me too because uh, so much of all of the knowledge that exists is somewhere online or on a server somewhere
Yeah.
and nowhere in physical reality or in very few places in physical reality.
I
So I
know.
always think about that because I'm like, man, if we had like just the right solar flare, like all this, it would be like 10,000 libraries of Alexandria burning down.
I know. I mean, I guess that would just be what we deserve for trusting in a technology that, you know, can be
Right.
destroyed so simply.
Yeah.
Um, and we're kind of witnessing that happen in real time too, with, earlier iterations of the internet being basically unsalvageable. Uh, like there's not really any archaeological methods that will ever be able to get certain of these things back. And
Right.
people who before were saying like if you put it on the internet, it's really preserving it. Like this is like the perfect archiving tool, and it just
Right.
proved to be so untrue.
Yeah. The internet never forgets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
It
does.
yeah, it seems to be very forgetful. Yeah.
Right. Um, yeah. And then, if Internet Archive goes away, which that has been threatened.
several times. Yeah, that would be a nightmare because that's
Uh,
important.
yeah, I got really nervous when it went offline for a little while. Like,
Yeah.
was it a couple months ago? Yeah. Um, and
Yeah,
it,
that would be a nightmare. Yeah, but I
but
figure,
then, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
if
go
that
ahead.
solar flare comes, I mean, people like you and I will be laughing at everybody. You
Right.
fools!
Yeah.
We have the archives here.
Yeah, I'll be like, I'll turn into some sort of like baron or something, like like with my
Yeah,
books. Be like,
yeah.
oh, you need a
You're
book about how to nail a window up or
right.
something.
Yeah, the book baron of the wasteland,
Yeah, right.
sitting at the top of your pile of books.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I've also thought that about AI too, when the
Yeah,
inevitable reaction to the internet becoming a unusable hallucination
right.
pushes people back to physical media even harder than, they're already going.
Yeah, or you
Uh,
might have to go ask somebody how to do a thing.
right. Yeah, God, what a nightmare.
Right.
Um, yeah, and yeah, so I mean, I feel like as far as Eugenia goes, I think the next kind of step in whatever it is I'm doing, and other people are too, like Smiles Lewis and
Yeah,
Professor Wham,
yep,
Stephanie Quick, like people who are, in one way or other, kind of uh, keeping her grave clean and tending the flowers there,
right.
metaphorically.
Yeah,
Uh, I think the next step is trying to get her stuff out out there, and whatever that takes, I don't know yet. I'm methodically and slowly working behind the scenes to make that a secure possibility someday. But
yeah,
um, like a wide reaching publication of, I mean, even just like something I didn't talk about yet is her novels, which are unbelievably good.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
three novels uh, that have been published, and she used like OCR technology that was probably not very good. So they're just like, and they were scanned from TypeScript, so they're just full of like really annoying grammatical glitches, like typos that
Right.
are. So they would need like some serious like atomic level uh retypesetting. But that's the dream, is to have like an omnibus of her three novels out there for people, because I feel like they demonstrate better than any of her nonfiction the worldview, the very peculiar worldview she's kind of trying to demonstrate for other people. Like they're examples of how the world that she inhabited is also the world that we inhabit. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, they show it, I guess, rather than tell it, as the teachers like to say.
Well, yeah. And speaking of showing, not telling, have you encountered anybody that she worked with on stage with the plays? Any of the people that acted in them, or
I've talked to two actors, um, and one or two other people that were in some way involved with her plays. They were mostly just like, wow, I loved working with Eugenia. She was so interesting, and her plays were like so fresh and weird. I love doing it. That's kind of like what those, I think it was two actors and somebody else. And they're always like, I don't really have the script anymore because I'm just trying to get the script.
right?
Um, and they're like, sorry, it's gone. But yeah, I mean, they're like, I guess she was like great to work with, which is really nice to know, at least
Yeah,
from that point of view. Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd
and I
love to
mean,
talk to more of them, but they're hard to track down. I actually got one. I put up a Craigslist ad in New York City like 5 or 6 years ago, being like, anybody who knew Eugenia Macer Story, send me an email. Um,
yeah,
and I think Professor Wham was one of the people who I already knew, I think.
yeah,
And maybe not. and the other person was one of the actors. Maybe I'll try it again someday because it's productive.
Yeah, yeah, seems worthwhile.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm guessing she would have known and worked with, or at least met John Keel in New York during that time because he was
Yeah.
living there, right?
I
Yeah, I guess he used
wonder.
to have like salons at his apartment, like
Yeah.
once a month
And
or something. Yeah,
I know that she knew people like Timothy Green Beckley,
yeah,
just from anecdotes in some of her writings. And what's really interesting about her is that's the only way to find out anything about her life is hoping she was in a forthcoming mood when she published any of her books, like
yeah,
learning where she grew up, uh, where she lived at any given time. And she moved around a lot as a kid. She was in the Midwest mostly as a kid, Indiana
yeah,
and elsewhere, and then uh, maybe New York then, and then up to Boston, and then back to New York. Her time in Boston was when she had the UFO encounter. She
yeah,
had a psychic shop in Salem, lived in Swampscott, Massachusetts for a while.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, and that was always kind of funny because having gone to school in Massachusetts, I knew people from like Swampscott and stuff like that.
yeah. Well, I lived in Salem for a little while, so I
Yeah,
know Swampscott. It's it's right next door, Salem. So
yeah, right. I forgot that it has that hurt New England pronunciation. Um,
I actually am not sure. I always just called it Swampscott because it sounds
no,
right for New England, but
I feel
I
like
think
that's what
so.
people say.
Yeah, people. I've heard it both ways.
Yeah.
Even
Um,
even here, people don't know.
right. Yeah. Um, yeah, and then Woodstock, I guess, for most of her latter years. But
Yeah, and that's kind of a
yeah,
weird area too, right? Like the Woodstock
I
area.
love it. Yeah. And like 2015 or so, when I was really doing like the on the ground, like let's go to Woodstock, let's go talk to people. Uh, Spending time there, it really is a charmed, strange place. Aside from it being kind of like a Disneyland for hippies,
Right.
it's that's just like the downtown. Like Saugerties next door has this amazing place called Opus 40, which is this like giant stonework, like carved out of the ground, like labyrinth type thing. It's just like a really trippy place. It's just wonderful.
Yeah. Is that I'm going to show my ignorance for New York geography, but was that kind of near where Whitley Strieber had his encounter in
Where
Communion?
was he in the cat? He was in the Catskills, right?
Well,
Um,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
it's in the so Woodstock is like Hudson Valley. Um, Catskills are that too, or at least part. You know, they're they overlap, and I don't actually know, but
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
you can be in the Catskills and the Hudson Valley. I know that. Um, yeah, where was Whitley's cabin? I wish I had that tattooed on me,
Yeah.
the town name.
I
But
don't
I don't.
actually know. I imagine it was somewhere a little bit remote, because it was like a vacation place. But
Yeah, it's definitely in. I feel like it might be somewhere weird, like not that remote.
because I feel like Ted Owens ended his life somewhere in that area too.
Yeah.
Well, not.
Oh,
I mean, not that he like committed suicide. I mean, toward the end of his life, that's where he lived.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, the cabin is near Kingston, New York, according to unknowncountry.com.
Okay.
So that is right there. Yeah, that's right. Like Kingston, Woodstock, Saugerties are kind of like a little
Okay. Yeah.
trio.
So I wasn't wrong.
You were not, you were right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ted Owens lived right around there somewhere. So
He's
yeah,
an interesting fellow too.
he was trying to offer his services for controlling the weather for a town as a paid position within the town government.
That's cool.
He tried it. It didn't work, but he was
Huh.
kind of salty about nobody taking him up on that.
Yeah, I wish people did that more now. I feel like we don't have guys like that right now.
Yeah, I
Where,
mean, I think every municipality should have its own wizard, and
yeah, and anti-wizard to keep it
Yeah,
balanced.
right.
A black and white magician.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe if Vermin Supreme becomes president someday, we can institute that.
Yeah, or yeah. I don't know. He might win next time. We might not have anybody else.
Yeah. Here's hoping. I want my
Yeah.
pony, you know?
Yeah, man. Um, yeah. So what of Eugenia's work have you read so far or kind of spent any time with?
It's been a lot of the articles and some of those papers, and
Yeah.
the book that you published a while back.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, it's my little one-off. That's Captain Midnight.
right, that's the one that has Captain Midnight in it. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's just
but
Captain Midnight. Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, well, I think there were a couple poems in there too that were outside of that.
Mm.
But um, but yeah, I mean, I haven't really ever come across her books in stores and stuff like that. It's
They're not easy to find.
so it's
Uh,
mostly like bits and bobs that I've managed to find through articles. And then recently I was reading, I, I ended up coming into possession of a big stack of paranoia magazines.
oh
And
right,
one of
she's
them,
in there.
yeah, and one of them was like a collection of women of paranoia magazine that was
Was it
all the,
I remember the title. Paranoid Women Collect Their Thoughts. Is that right?
yes, that's the
Yeah.
one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
So
love
I was
that
flipping
book.
through that and I'm like, oh, Eugenia Macer Story, sweet. So I read it and then I
Yeah.
was like, man, I got to get Ben on to talk talk about her. So I'm not
Oh
nearly
man.
as knowledgeable, but that's part of the reason I wanted to have you on to talk through it is because,
Yeah, I love her
you know,
stuff. I mean, obviously, so
right.
I could talk about it forever. Yeah, and I mean, exactly what you're saying is why I think we need to get some of her stuff out there again somehow because I mean, I just because I love it, but also because I think it it does add a dimension to some of the questions that people are struggling with today regarding the paranormal. I think it answers some of those questions satisfyingly, at
Yeah.
least to me. And so I feel much less like I'm never worrying about the nuts and bolts versus the interdimensional hypothesis because they're the same thing as far as, her work is concerned.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it can be both. And I mean, I see some similarities in ways that I tend to think in what I read when I'm reading her work,
Yeah,
which is heartening, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the same thing. I don't want to, cognitively superimpose myself over what I'm
for
reading,
sure.
but that is a danger that you can run into, and I think a lot of people do. Because
Absolutely. It's hard
I
not to
just,
sometimes.
yeah, but I find it really distracting to have to contend with, and it happens all the time. Happened to me today, where people totally misinterpret what you're even saying because they stopped at the wait, so you don't think UFOs are real?
Right.
And I'm like, no, what do you mean? I don't think UFOs are real. Like,
Yeah.
I'm criticizing these people that
Yeah.
are promoting insane narratives about government cover-ups.
Right.
That's not the same thing as saying I don't think UFOs are real. Like,
Yeah.
one of my favorite
Yeah.
examples of that was when I wrote about Bugs Bunny and UFOs. Uh, and somebody left this comment that was like, "So what you're saying is the government seeded alien, uh, you know, seeded information about reversed alien technology in the Bugs Bunny cartoons. Interesting." And I was like, "That's not even close to what I was saying. Did you read it?"
Yeah.
It's like, what?
People do, they love to do that. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, they're so stuck on these like weird dichotomies that like
Right.
a lot of us have moved past like years ago.
Yeah.
You're like, come on, catch up. But then again, here we go again. I hate talking about this because then I feel like I sound condescending to somebody um,
Right.
that is maybe newer to the topic and is, it- it's a phase I guess a lot of people have to go through. and I
Right.
like
I
I'm
don't
not
really worry
begrudging
about
them
that.
for it, but I don't worry about it. But it is it's one
Yeah, of course.
it's distracting. It's like
Yeah.
you feel like you're on a roll and you're on a tangent, and then you have to backtrack and go, okay, well now I have to explain myself and
Yeah. No, I mean, you don't want to sound condescending, but I don't really worry about it, at least with this stuff anymore, because uh I mean, it's like any arcane, complicated subject where you have to enter it somewhere. And if somebody wants to enter it on the shallow end of thinking about like, you know, aliens kept in a base, that's
yeah,
fine. Or if you want to think about it like we'll never know the truth about anything and that's fun,
right,
then that's another way of doing. Yeah, so I don't real but I know what you mean. I do feel mortified sometimes, like, yeah, thinking I might be like talking down about a subject just because I've needlessly wasted my life looking at it,
right.
but I don't know. Yeah.
Well, yeah, again, you and I will have the last laugh when the solar flare happens and we're sitting atop a pile of UFO books.
Right.
We'll be
And
the only
yeah.
ones with the knowledge.
Yeah. It's probably better that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that thought, and uh, uh, I think that's probably a shared experience that most people wouldn't be willing to admit so much. But it's like
Yeah.
sometimes you look at your wall of books and you're like, "What have I been doing with
Yeah.
my life?"
I've gotten
Nobody
better
beyond
though.
this wall cares about all this stuff, except randos on the internet that I've become friends with over the years. Other
Yeah,
freaks out there.
but that's nice too. And I mean, one way I think about it, well, it helps that I'm a bookseller. So
Yeah,
I can always get rid of this stuff and I can usually make money doing it, which is nice.
right.
Just by having this very particular set of skills.
Yeah,
Um, but I also think about like the book collection as like a potential, you know? Um, it's just like a promise that there are other ways you can go in life. It's like I don't most of the books I have not read because when I read a book, unless it's something that I deeply treasure, I usually let it move on.
huh.
And
Yeah,
so my collection, I like to keep stuff that is promises that, given that I don't die, I will have the ability to enter this other way. Of course, I keep a lot of books that I've read. I don't mean to give the impression that I'm
oh,
like
okay. Yeah,
throwing stuff out as soon as I read it, but I like to keep the balance like three-fourths future reads and one-fourth like a solid, dense collection.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that just helps me feel, I don't know what. It's like uh, a wall against the future, kind of.
yeah, yeah. It's a cool way to think about it. It's uh infinite probability.
Yeah. I also
Yeah,
I feel like I read very differently than a lot of people, which is that I read like, eh, on the one hand, I'll read something straight through and I'm just a regular person. And then on the other hand, I do a lot of things where I read a bunch of different things at once or in
yeah,
concert with one another, especially if they have an interesting harmony together, like things that are unrelated but which have sort of like similarities and or differences in frequency that make them interesting.
yeah,
Mostly for my writing process is what I do most of my reading for anyway. So it's, you know, a lot of these like hyper specific books on certain subjects I don't finish necessarily because I'm not reading them like for pleasure, but for almost bibliomantic purposes. So that part of the library is almost different than like, you know, the stuff I keep because I love it.
right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a lot that I have that I think are just research purposes.
Yeah.
that I'm not necessarily reading for pleasure, but I can definitely relate to having like five or six currently reading titles. Uh,
Yeah, like right now I have Ancient Stone Implements, which is like a 19th century book about handmade stone weapons and tools that I bought for like 5 lines in this in this poem that I'm writing.
that's
I don't
awesome.
know why I do
Yeah.
this, but I guess because it's a rare book and I know that I can turn it around eventually. But for a little while, I like to hold on to it and kind of like absorb it. A lot of it comes through osmosis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but as far as the Eugenia stuff, I need at least 2 copies of each.
Yeah. And you got the artwork and some digital stuff as well, and the talks that were, I
Yeah,
guess, DVD. Is that how they were?
they're just MP3 or MP4
Uh,
files.
Files. Okay.
I mean, they're on an external hard drive somewhere too, but yeah, I'd love to get those put down on a disc somewhere. They're
Yeah.
really wonderful. There might be one or two that are free. They're really worth watching, just to see like how she talks and it really illuminates her work, which I think it does for anybody. Hearing them sort of speak gives you a sense for their cadence in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. I'll have to look those up, but I mean, I'm sure there are some kind of like examples of her speaking on YouTube as well. And
Yeah, I
are
was
there?
just looking at
Yeah.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
what's it called? There's like one. It's she calls in by telephone to a show called Topic UFO. Are you familiar with this? A guy named Rick Scowler.
No, I don't know that one.
Just like I think 13 years ago it was posted. It's just like a video, like an early video podcast, really, which is kind of interesting. And she calls in on the phone, terrible connection, wind is blowing in the background, and she's talking to this guy who's like a very earnest UFO dude, which, nothing wrong with that. And she's like trying to explain her stuff, and he's like, so it's a fluidice, I don't know if he pronounces it
Yeah.
like that, but um, and that's good. Yeah, it's nice because the other one is I don't know if it's on YouTube, but it's a poetry podcast that she has a brief interview on, and she reads a couple poems. I don't remember where I found it. I just have it as an MP3 somewhere. Um, and that's good too. Because that's a big part of her life. I mean, the bulk of her published books are poetry chat books. So it's like
Yeah.
that was important to her, and they're great.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of those just floating around out there that people don't even necessarily know about because chapbooks are easy enough to self-publish, you know. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
If anybody out there listening has any of Eugenia's chapbooks, I will pay anything you ask if it's one that I don't have. I don't care what happens. I'll sell anything to get the ones I don't have. I don't
Right,
care.
right. Yeah,
Um, just so I can eventually do this freaking collected poems, and
right.
it actually be a genuine one, not just like the collected poems that Ben has.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I'm looking through one of her books. Yeah, the poems are interesting because that's sort of like my other thing is
Yeah.
poetry. That's so I'm used to a certain like then they're kind of different parts of my life. So like looking at her as like a poet is interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, bringing it back to kind of the beginning of the show, you're
Yeah,
very always very interested in the intersection of UFOs and poetry. So,
right. And it turns
yeah.
out, yeah, I found it, and it was this lady. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, the poems are they're not really like anything else. They're not always good. Like, not that that means anything. They're not always, I don't know what the word would be, but sometimes they're unbelievable. And I guess that's
Right.
true of a lot of people, but uh yeah, very
Yeah.
unique poems.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Well, hopefully some of them turn out. I don't know if I have any listeners that are gonna recognize the name and go to their closet and find an old chapbook back there. And
You never know.
stranger things have happened. Clearly,
They
it,
really have.
you've told us some of it tonight, but
Yeah. And stranger
um,
things may happen yet.
it's true. That's true. Uh, I think we can probably count on
Yeah,
it.
you can usually win. Yeah, you can win the bet by saying something weird will happen. Yeah.
Yeah, for
I don't
sure.
know who the bet's against, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a gentleman's bet. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, okay, as we wind down here,
Yeah.
do you have any like kind of closing thoughts on EMS or her legacy or
Yeah.
places you'd think like recommend people to?
Um, yeah, it's hard to really sum it up. I think if you find any of her books, you should get it and read it. They're all good. I've read most of them now, the ones that I have. Uh, I think in some ways she's saying stuff that other people have said, but in other ways she is sort of like a lost connective fabric between a lot of these different strands of paranormal thought that often don't go together so well.
Yeah,
Um, and if you're at all interested in sort of just the classic American uh eccentric genius, I think she's sort of like a major entry in that field. Somebody who's really not like anybody else. And, that's an interest of mine are these sort of forgotten Titanic figures who just sort of built their own cosmologies.
right. Yeah,
Um,
because if you don't fit neatly into a category, unfortunately, you just slip through the cracks sometime for a lot of people. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So I would say read Eugenia Macer Story, if you can. And,
yeah,
you know, if there's a organic demand for it, perhaps someday there will be books available again, but I don't know.
yeah,
Uh, and if there's one lesson I've learned from my sort of long encounter with Eugenia's work and afterlife incursions, whatever you'd call them, is that there's hmm, it has convinced me that more than anything else, it has convinced me there is sort of some kind of afterlife thing happening that has to do
yeah,
with these synchronicity events. Um, Someone who, like me, is kind of not. I've never been an adherent to any religion, like a lot of people in this realm, but working with her work has convinced me of some kind of strange communication with the dead that is never like it's never speech exactly, but it's a dream logic that kind of sometimes bleeds into life. And so if you can find a person like that to have a relationship with, I think that's good.
yeah, yeah. Good stuff. Um, all right. Well, as for you personally, what's coming up on the horizon? Do you have any projects or stuff coming up with Consensus Unreality or
Hmm. Yeah, well, I'm doing the bookstore. If you're anywhere near let's say we're like an hour north of Philly, 2 hours south of New York City, in the Lehigh Valley of Pennsylvania. If you're anywhere that way, come by the shop. We're having a Christmas party on the 20th of December. That'll be
Awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm working on a long book, and that's dealing with a lot of the things that we're talking about tonight. It's a,
Yeah.
a long poem in parts, but very much a work written in collaboration with a uh, not a tulpa because I don't want to misuse that word the way so many people do, but
Yeah.
a being that I created that I'm now collaborating with that is probably not real, and yet is how I would describe that.
Well, that sounds awesome.
Yeah,
So, is this inspired by like the changing light at Sandover? Because I know you've been kind of talking about that book
I love
recently.
that book.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah. I mean, and a big thing about the book is that it's sort of like a myth forest quest, sort of like romantic, chivalric
Okay.
setting, but
Yeah.
not really. And so it's not really that. It's set there, and then it uh, fractalizes into using my own life as its terrain, and then so it's sort of escaping into my own life, which is at first was very scary, and I didn't
Yeah.
know why I was doing that to myself,
Right.
but I decided that that's what it's doing. Um, in the same way that one of my favorite books is Changing Light at Sandover by Merrill, and um, it's using that sort of thing. I'm not using a Ouija board or anything, but yeah, that it takes. I'm not trying to like create a weird cosmology the way he did in his book, but it is an influence for sure, and he's the most meticulous craftsman that we have or had in poetry. So
Yep.
big influence, but we'll see. Probably not the same thing, but
Right.
cool to be mentioned in the same realm.
Yeah.
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 And Consensus Unreality continues. We'll have to have you on sometime again.
Oh yeah, man. I had a lot of fun last time I was on.
What did we
Yeah.
talk? We
Yeah.
talked about
We talked about like
Loch
we spent a
Ness.
lot of time talking about Aleister Crowley and Bluskin
Right.
House and stuff like
Yes.
that.
Yeah, that stuff's wild.
Yeah. Which I
Um,
ended up doing a presentation about in Gettysburg last summer.
right.
And I was looking up where your store was. I'm like, yeah, it's not close to Gettysburg.
Not really. That's Gettysburg's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's weird out there. Definitely haunted.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's all that's going on in my realm.
All right, sweet. And you can follow both the
Yeah.
podcast and the store on Instagram, right? So yeah.
Yeah, at Apport Used Books and at Consensus Unreality.
Yeah.
And
Important to mention
yeah,
because you can buy the books online, which is how I do it. I don't drive
yes.
down to Emmaus. I,
Yeah. No.
I said the first times we ever communicated, I think, was me being like, "Is this book still available?
That's
Shut up and
I've
take my
yeah.
money." Yeah.
I've met a lot of people that way. Yeah. I recently had this book, If We Can Keep a Severed Head Alive, go
Yeah.
like extremely viral on Instagram. Uh, and I've gotten so many messages being like, please, please, can I buy this book? Please, I
Yeah.
need to get this for my husband or something like that. And I'm like, nah, the book sold like 3 weeks ago. I don't know why it keeps getting all this traction. I guess severed
I
heads are in the
messaged
air.
you about
I
yeah.
know.
I messaged you about that one too because I actually wrote about severed heads staying
Yeah.
alive in movies at least. Like
Yeah. I mean, it's a subject I find endlessly fascinating.
yeah.
And I have a copy of that book myself. And, it's not the kind of thing I'd sell if I didn't already have one.
Right.
Um, and it's gruesome.
Yeah, I mean the real life cases of it are horrible.
Yeah.
When I wrote about it, I only spent like a paragraph or two on the real life
Yeah.
stuff because I'm like, let's just go to the movies because the movies are fun to talk about, you know?
Yeah. No, it's scary. But symbolically, uh, such an ancient, weird fixation of people, and that's what I like about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it goes back to like Orphic tradition.
Yeah,
The the disembodied head of Orpheus
yeah,
staying alive, and yeah,
yeah, and like the Templar stuff with like the rumor of it being John the Baptist's head,
yeah.
Baphomet, like all that stuff. It's just very rich. It's like, yeah, a very
Yeah.
rich mine.
Well,
But yeah,
maybe when I come on your show, we can talk severed heads.
that would be great. I would love that. Yeah,
Well, all right. Thank you so much for
cool.
coming on and
Yeah,
spending
of
so much of
course.
your time talking about like, helping to keep the legacy of Eugenia Macer Story alive. Yeah,
Got to do it anytime.
yep. And I'll be spending more money at your store, I'm sure, very soon.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.